Hello, everybody. I hear a lull. I'm going to grab it. Let's start. Welcome to Beyond the Hacker Stereotype. Here's a little bit about myself. I won't go over the details. It's just to establish I do know a little bit about security. I have not been on the red team side. I've not done much hacking. I love going to DEF CON all the same. I always learn great stuff. Since this is a talk about careers, I'll just give you briefly a little sketch of mine because it wasn't entirely predictable. I started thinking I was going to be an English professor. That's like the first 10 years of my adult life. But I didn't. I ended up going into software development. And so that's another 20 years there in various software team tasks, after which I got tired of that and finally shifted into security. I call this slide, Move Laterally and Escalate Privileges. Good, okay. I have, over the last couple of years in particular, through connections I have at Western Oregon University, at the local OWASP chapter, at some regional conferences and events, I've had the privilege of talking increasingly to people who are early in a cybersecurity career. Whatever their age is, they are starting off into that career. And it frustrates me a little bit, just irks me a little, because that they're not interested in what I do. I do blue team stuff. And they all come to the talks if we're having talks about how to do penetration testing. Then we have a lot of people attending. And that's perfectly fine. It's interesting work. It's hard to do. And it is a lot of fun. But there are other things in the world. So it seems to me like this is what they think the security world looks like. And this is what I think the security world looks like. So the point of this talk is really to cover two things. One is to list what some of those other hats you can wear are, and I'll describe them briefly and put up some facts about some of those roles. The other thing I'm going to do is, to get that data, I'm going to rely on a tool the federal government made that tries to categorize and describe in a transparent and consistent way the kinds of work that happen in the cybersecurity industry. So that gives my facts a little authority, a little systematic approach here. There's some data behind this. Just briefly, because I'm going to use these acronyms, the framework I'm going to rely on was created by a sub-branch of the Department of Homeland Security. It is the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Careers and Studies, NICCS, and they created this framework that I'm going to draw data from called the NICE Framework, and that's an acronym too. But when you hear me say the NICE Framework, that's what I mean. It's freely available on the web. I have the URL for it on the last slide. You can get to it and look it all yourself. It starts by, one of the core concepts is a work role, which is close to what a job is, and the difference is so small it doesn't matter much. It says there are 58 work roles in the cybersecurity industry, and I'm not sure they hit all of them. And it divides those 58, or categorizes those 58, groups them into 7 categories here. And since the categories themselves give you a sense of the breadth, I am going to spend a little time on this slide and say, first of all, they code everything. All the roles that are in oversight and governance begin OG and an ID number. It's like a little database. They have IDs for all these things. So the first section up there is about leadership, management, and advocacy within an organization to be sure that all the right security things are happening. What is our vision? What do we need? Have we hired the right people? That's the leadership side of it. The second row is design and development, and that's building and testing secure technology systems. So that's like building software and making a new product. I/O, implementation and operation, is running, maintaining, configuring, setting up, and using an information technology system. It's a typical IT department. The next one is identifying and analyzing risks to organizational infrastructure, information systems. Responding to attacks, this is a focus on digital evidence, so that fifth bar, investigation, that fifth row, gets invoked when something actually goes wrong, or preparing for the fact that something might go wrong. The last two shift more into stuff that more often happens in military or government organizations, but sometimes in very large companies like Microsoft too, or big consulting companies, gathering information from many sources, analyzing it, and producing information about threat actors' cyberspace intentions and capabilities. That is the penultimate row. And then finally is executing operations aimed at defending or projecting force through cyberspace. So that's like attacks and defense. So there's a range of things that are not by any means all hacking, although it includes hacking. So the core concept in this NICE framework is a long list of work roles. I've said there are 58. 640 different knowledge areas that some of those work roles need to know. 556 skills that are spread out across those work areas, and 1,084 separate tasks that people do. So there's really a great deal of detailed information that somebody in the government with a lot of consulting with industry has put together to try and come up with a transparent way, a systematic way that we can code work opportunities and be transparent about what's required, to describe it the same way in different organizations. One of the goals in this is to make it easier to bring people in. A lot of this tool is written by HR people for HR people, solving their problems, not mine, and I found that that was sometimes a hindrance for answering the kinds of questions I wanted to get out of it. But they are thinking of us too, and there are ways you can use this to find things you're interested in. I began with a task imagining myself as a fresh college grad. I was an English major, so this is an English major example. And I probably picked not the best way to start with this framework, but I'm going to drag you through the steps that I went through because it does reveal something about how the framework works and what's in it. And then I'll go more quickly through the other ones. I opened up the spreadsheet that has all those hundreds of items in it with each one on a different tab, and I skimmed through the skills thing. I thought, I know what skills I have, or at least I think I do. I don't know what jobs I want. I want to start with the skills. Here's skills I have. What could I do with it is the question I wanted to answer. And I stared at read all these hundreds of skills for a while, and then I began to notice some that were interesting. And so I filtered the Excel spreadsheet to show me only the skills that have the word communication in them. And then I said, as an English major, there are two in particular that attract me. I'm interested in communicating complex concepts and doing it in writing. Those are things I could handle. So then my next question is, what job roles need those skills? So I go over to the other tab, the one with all the job roles, and there's a column of the skills listed by number, which isn't terribly friendly, but I remember the two numbers from the other page, and I've highlighted them where I found them here. And I sorted this, did the filtering in Excel spreadsheet and came up with 3 roles that need those 2 skills. And a lot of other skills too, I admit, but still, that's a good start. The first one attracted me, cybersecurity instructor. I wanted to be an English professor. I could have imagined myself as an instructor. This is a way in. And so then let's see, do I have this on the next slide? Yeah. That's the role I got interested in. So now for a while I'm going to think about what I can find in this framework about that cybersecurity instructor role. What other information is there? This is the UI they probably mean you to start with, not with the spreadsheet where I started. But it doesn't it doesn't let you browse by skills, which is how I go back into the spreadsheet. So now in the upper left, I know you can't see it. In a minute I'll blow up part of this, but I have put cybersecurity instruction in the top left. There's a drop-down list. I found that role. And you can see it's pulled up information about that role. The next slide blows up the right-hand half of that picture to show just what some of those details, notice the details tab is highlighted. There are other tabs we'll go to in a minute. Some of the details offered about this role include functional job titles. This is what I look for on a job board. If I want to be a cybersecurity instructor, I don't look for cybersecurity instruction. That's just the framework's word for this role. These are the job titles where they might need someone who can do that role. There might be other job titles as well, but that's a good start. It gives me an idea for the kind of thing I might be looking for. I've switched down to the task statements, still looking at the same cyber instruction role. And now you can recognize probably these are tasks that were in that spreadsheet, but now it's showing them to me on a web page. And there are a lot of tasks, more than you see here, way more than you see here. But still, the top ones are interesting. It confirms I'm in the right place. This is a job about evaluating training programs, preparing and delivering briefings. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I thought would be here. Good, I'm in the right place. Another tab, common relationships. There are at the bottom on the right here 4 other roles from the workshop, from the framework. There are the codes and their names, and then a percentage on the right. That percentage is telling me how many of those tasks and skills and what are the other knowledge areas are shared between the role I picked and these other roles. So although I'm looking at cybersecurity instructor, that's 87% overlap with curriculum development. Well, that makes sense. But I might not have known there was a curriculum development role I could look for. And there's a significant amount of overlap, less than 80%, but still a significant amount with some other roles. So that might give me another area to look in and say, well, maybe I should be considering those too. Maybe I could find my way into one of those. The next another one of these tabs is capability indicators, and I'm going to go there next, except that when I click it, you get so much information it doesn't fit on a slide. So I have abstracted it off the website and just made kind of a sketch. There's way more information in there, but just to give you an idea what these capability indicators are like, it shows you a little bit about what you're expected to have in that job by the way of qualifications at different stages in your career. And since I'm imagining myself as a just graduated English major, I care about the first column. And the first column says an associate's or a bachelor's degree will get you in. Maybe I didn't need that bachelor's degree I just got. I could have got in with an associate's. This is a way to find that out. And that doesn't mean it's a hard and fast rule that you have to have one of those degrees, but by and large, in general, that's what's expected. That's useful information. It also says what areas I might look for training in. Maybe I can find a Coursera course, or maybe I already have a job and there's professional training there, or maybe I can find some books. Those would be good areas to focus on. And it tells me if I need credentials or certifications, if that's a common requirement for that job. Those are things I get asked, so I thought it was useful to see that they're here in the framework. Finally, and this is not part of the framework, I went on to LinkedIn to see if I could find an actual person who had a cybersecurity instruction role, because I wanted this to seem kind of concrete, like people in the real world actually do this. And here's somebody I found. And of course there were people with normal instructor roles, but I really liked his role. It sounded really interesting, so that's why I picked it. His role, if you can't read it, is Engagement Coordinator and Speaker at Microsoft's Cybercrime Center. That sounded like fun. He doesn't probably have to be the person who does all the technology stuff. He just has to understand it well enough to explain it to different kinds of audiences, probably with different degrees of technology familiarity, and make it sound interesting and exciting and important to them. I'd like that job. Even now, that sounds like fun to me. So anyway, I've finished there. We got to one role. There is one role, one hat other than hacker that you could look for. And I'm not going to drag you through all the framework steps and all the others, but I'm going to go more quickly through some of the other things you could find in this framework. So first role I'll take, or second role I'll take, cybersecurity legal advice. And here are the tasks, the skills, and the knowledge that the framework says you need if you want to consider this as your work role. This is a work role you might like if you like the idea of being the expert who guides the company through legal and regulatory issues related to cybersecurity. Again, this is not someone who programs typically. They may have written a few scripts somewhere. I mean, part of my message is there's a variety of roles that take a variety of qualifications, and it isn't all about being a deep hacker in order to provide deeply needed services. There are some job titles associated with the legal advice role. And here is a person who actually has that role. And again, not someone I know. I don't even know exactly for sure what Molly does, but I liked her. I picked her out in particular because she's not the contract lawyer for a corporation, which is kind of what I expected most of the lawyers to be. And I worked with them, and they do important stuff. I depend on them a lot. But she is a lobbyist. She works for EFF, the Electronic Freedom Foundation, of which I am a proud member. And she is working to influence public policy, which needs legal input and advice for regulatory decisions. So that's another angle you can go there. Definitely public sector people with legal advice. And here is another thing you can find for not all the jobs of this kind of in the framework, but this did come from the framework. It's a screenshot. It gives you an idea of the median salary, I think, for starting positions in this role, not for senior positions. I know senior lawyers make way more than that. But still, you want to know what might you be aiming for if you start down this road. You might start somewhere around there. And it confirms that, yes, indeed, you do need a law degree to consider this. All right. Here is a third role, knowledge management as a role. There are the tasks, skills, and knowledge areas needed to work in knowledge management. This is a role to consider if you like the idea of organizing information, ensuring teams have the right data at their fingertips, and making an organization better by improving how knowledge is shared. Imagine, for example, you work at a big consulting company like Deloitte or Accenture, and they have lots of people doing lots of things, and they definitely, if I'm a consultant, I get assigned to a new client who has a problem I haven't seen before. I want to go to the company knowledge base and see, how have we dealt with other customers who had this problem? I want that to be easy to find and current. That's just an example of what a knowledge management person might help provide. Here are the job titles associated with it, and there is someone who has a documentation-focused specialist job working for 1Password, which is, you probably know, a password management program. And there are the starting salaries. This is a job you can conceivably get without a degree. Certifications are encouraged. You know, useful information. And each of these colorful sheets also emphasizes soft skills that are needed. It isn't enough, in some cases not even necessary, to be a deep technology person. There are other skills needed in these jobs as well. Oh, a bonus feature, stepping away from the roles. Another thing that you can get out of the framework that I find really useful are these things called on-ramps. When you're in that view where there are all those tabs, and I was clicking around, on certain of those tabs you can see this on-ramps button. And if you click it, you get a display like this. And knowledge management is the role we're looking at. The other circles are also work roles. They're work roles that you commonly step into knowledge management from. So if I don't see knowledge management entry-level positions out there and I'm determined I want to go that way, I might look for a data analysis role instead and use that as a step towards knowledge management. That's what on-ramps are. It took me a while to figure that out. Technical support can also be an on-ramp to knowledge management. All right, back to our list of roles. Threat analysis is a role. And those are some of the, and again, just some of the task, skills, and knowledge for that. I just pulled out some representative ones. There are many more in the framework. This is a job to consider if you like understanding the way hackers think, attackers think, and enjoy researching emerging threats, and you like anticipating the moves of your cyber adversaries. That's this kind of work. People in this role are responsible for collecting, processing, analyzing, and disseminating cybersecurity threat assessments. And here's someone who does that for Microsoft. There's a starting salary that is a little more technical than some, so I'm not surprised to see the starting salary a little higher. More technical than some of the other roles I've featured in this so far. Yeah. All right. Cybercrime investigation, and we've had some talks today that bear on this. There are the tasks, skills, and knowledge for, you have to do things like navigating the dark web, processing digital evidence. You might like this if you have a knack for tracking down digital evidence, you enjoy solving crimes, and you want to bring people to justice, like bike thieves, for example. You are responsible in this role for investigating intrusion incidents and crimes. You use a full range of investigative tools and processes, and you balance the benefits of prosecution against the benefits of intelligence gathering. That's a kind of judgment call you have to make. And here's somebody who does this. He is a cybercrime specialist, also a probation officer, somewhere on the East Coast. I forget where he was, but anyway, concrete job people can really get. Cybercrime, oh yeah, more details about that. Notice this one has no degree requirement, although certifications are encouraged. Again, you don't have to go to college to find your way into cybersecurity. I've shown 2 examples, and there are others in the framework. I'm only sampling. Another bonus feature from the framework. Another thing you can see, you will see as you're browsing through that UI I showed, the Career Pathways UI, and clicking those tabs, sometimes you'll encounter this button, and it jumps you into another website called USA Jobs that will show you job listings keyed to that work role. So they are starting to use this work role in the industry, this framework, and its coding. And the more you find that, the more you'll find the framework will help you understand what people are asking you for. But it also is a direct job lead, and you can see, you know, what organization it's at, what the salary would be, what they're requiring in an actual job specific opening. All right, I think this was my last role to cover. Multidisciplined language analysis is the role. And it starts, you know, with knowledge of language and dialects. And that, of course, has intelligence uses. You might like this role if you're skilled in more languages than English, and you enjoy interpreting foreign communications and cultures, and you want to help uncover cyber threats from global sources. That's what this work is about. And this guy has, his particular language area of expertise is Korean. He's been working for the military for a while. This kind of role combines language and cultural expertise with knowledge of targets, threats, and technology. And there's the little scratch sheet with some basic outline about that role. All right, hacker found its way in. Yeah, there is a role for hackers too. We acknowledge that. That is one of the 58 work roles. They call it exploitation analysis. It goes under those job titles. Vigilante hacker by night is Elliot's own particular job title. All right, I have a couple of slides to finish up. Just to review, I've introduced you to the NICE framework, and I've talked about 6 different cybersecurity roles that require different starting qualifications than you might have expected. I'm trying to extend our imagination of ways you could engage with this field. There is one other tool I want to introduce you to. It's called cyberseek.org, and it takes the data from the NICE framework, that is, its little database of jobs and roles, and it ties that in with actual job statistics from around the country by region. And from that site, I was able to see, for example, that in our region, in the Portland metro area, there has quite recently been an uptick in hiring in the cybersecurity workforce. That's interesting. You can get that kind of information for many different areas around the country. The same site will also let you see the data broken down by work roles, by those categories that we began with. And you can click into each category and see which work roles there are the most of. This will help you understand supply and demand around those work roles in different regional areas, which could be useful in your job hunt. Finally, I'm going to close with, well, nearly close, one more slide, I think, with this remark from the NICCS website. That's the people who put out the NICE framework. Kind of the general message from them and me for this talk is we need people in government, in the military, in intelligence. We need people with cybersecurity skills at all levels of every organization in all industries, from finance and healthcare to entertainment. There's a wide range of roles. Even the same role in different companies can give you very different kinds of satisfaction. There are the 3 main, oh, there's a third one I was going to mention. At the TAO summit earlier this month, I discovered there's a new, new to me, or I think it's new in town, new organization called Northwest Cyber, NW Cyber. Their website was not up yesterday, but it's coming up any minute, I'm told. And their focus is helping people in our area get connected to resources and key opportunities in cybersecurity. And they know a lot about this framework. They were excited to discover I already knew about it and was going to give a talk based on it. Kalika, are you here? I met someone at the conference. Okay, it's not. I thought we might actually have a representative. Anyway, keep your eye out on that. They do have a Facebook page that's running now, so you can connect with them if you want to. That's it. I'm done, but I would be happy to take questions. I think we have a little time. I'm certainly going to be around today and tomorrow. I would be happy to have further conversations with anyone if it would be useful. Thank you. Do I have ideas for job things for people who are retiring and want to do part-time stuff? I don't have specific leads. What occurs to me, it probably already occurred to you too, nonprofits need a lot of help. They typically don't have IT experienced people. And so if you go to your favorite nonprofit and say, I'd be happy to help, that might work. I don't know, there's a thought. So the question is, how do we get errors in that framework fixed, that not all the data they have is accurate now? I don't know that. I assume that you would go through the NICCS website and there would be a way to report that. I do know they went through, I don't know what process they followed to get this. They didn't make them up. I don't know where it came from. And I also don't know, and they've revised it once. It came out in 2017, and they've shifted the role definition since then. There is definitely an ongoing effort to keep it accurate, so I'm sure someone is interested in that feedback. And yes, I wouldn't take any of that as gospel or written in stone, just because that said usually a degree is required. That doesn't mean you might not get the job without, or the other way around. It's averages.